Time to crawl.
I think the prototype has the potential to be the scariest monster, or possibly the worst the game has ever had. That might sound harsh, so let me explain. As I watched the newest trailer, I couldn't help but think about how good mob games are at creating a scary atmosphere and amazing build-up. But will this carry over into the actual game? We'll look at how each chapter has used horror before discussing the prototype at the end. Huggy Wuggy started it all with his basic stalking and vent chase. What works so well for Chapter 1 is how short it is, keeping the monster at its most effective. Huggy's scare factor is obvious. Tall, sharp teeth, monster that doesn't speak, and can squeeze into small spaces to reach you. The fear comes from the sense of being trapped in the vents with him. It's very alien isolation. It's simple, but works. In some ways, Huggy feels like a minor monster given how long the other chapters are, but it works in his favour, creating a memorable, intimidating creature. In Chapter 2 we meet Mummy Longlegs, who has a really cool design, but her long limbs are not very well implemented in practice. She reaches for the player, but very rarely actually catches us this way, and she reverts to simple chase sequences, which I felt undercut her potential. She has a great personality at least. For me, Chapter 3 is when the horror really starts to get real, like the orphanage and Miss Delight. It's clear that with each chapter, the team hope to make things darker and darker as we get closer to the story's end. Catnap had the potential to be very scary. I think we're noticing a pattern here. His nightmare gas gave hallucinations, which led to one of the creepiest sections in all the chapters, the orphanage nightmare. But for me, his boss fight lost so much of the fear factor because it was so frustrating, and ultimately, this is a balance we see really fall off when we speak about Doughy. Doughy isn't a full villain, but he's meant to be scary, both his size and abilities. But much like Catnap, I spent a lot of the boss fight being frustrated, which takes away from the horror. It's not really fair to judge these monsters by boss fights alone, as by their nature, boss fights force you to fight instead of run away, making the monster less scary by default. But notice how we never really had a fight with Huggy, so much as just caused him to fall, which kept him terrifying even in his defeat. My point is, almost every boss fight will make a monster less scary, especially as it drags things out. I'm going to give some honourable mentions. Miss Delight, Yarnaby, the Doctor for a time. Miss Delight is a true MVP of Poppy Playtime's horror. She's yet to be dethroned in my eyes, and it's because she has that realistic face under her face. It's horrifying and graphic. Her gameplay is also simple yet effective, much like Huggy's. You look away and she moves. There's a few frustrating moments here, but it's a great idea that works really well. Her breathing as she watches you, unable to move, is just, it's so good, chef kiss. So with all that said, we reach the prototype. While it's true that there will be other monsters in Chapter 5, both Huggy's return and this unknown female monster, the prototype is the final big bad, and so a lot of hype surrounds him. The team have been planning this character's reveal since Chapter 1, so they've had a lot of time to let their ideas cook. This monster is part mechanical, part mixture of toys, with a disturbing face briefly reflected in this scalpel shot. The tension is so thick and disturbing. The prototype has a very dark role in the story as the main villain, and I don't doubt the game will be filled with his presence whether he's on screen or not. This will be a tense game of cat and mouse that follows the stalking of all the other chapters. So what can we take away from the prototype's trailer? Well, the monster's big, completely filling up this hallway, and I get the impression it's going to chase us at some point in a small space. It's mechanical, something that I'm pretty sure will have an effect on its abilities, much like the previous monsters. And so, it's not really a lot to go off of. Vague trailers are mob games' bread and butter. The Doctor was mechanical, and some find him to be one of the most disappointing monsters of all. The honest truth is that it doesn't matter what the prototype is or what it can do. The only thing that matters is how well the developers make it work in the game. Because he's made up of different parts, this gives a lot of creative freedom to play around with his look and abilities. But this could also create problems, where he's overly complicated, and I do not want a repeat of Doughy or Catnap's fight. My only hope is that the team has had such a long time to refine this monster that it actually works. But the trailers do give me the impression that the prototype is very well designed, with its mechanical body parts being a part of this larger body, as it emerges from the shadows like Sin from Murder Drones. If you know, you know. However, I think one special thing to note about the prototype is that by having so many abilities, this monster might be able to adapt to different areas. Adapting makes monsters scarier because they feel more inescapable and unpredictable. when Huggy reveals he can fit into a vent despite being super tall, when Doughy fits through bars, an ability he conveniently loses in his boss fight but still, or when Mummy Longlegs does her whole spider thing. There's something terrifying about a monster doing something unexpected, and the prototype has the surprise factor on its side. We just don't know what it's capable of or how it works. It could be stalking through halls one moment, and then maybe using Mummy's long limbs or the red smoke in another. Even its distorted voice reflects this ability to shift between different things. Perhaps we'll see different sides to the monster in different sections. As long as the player's experience is the focus, I don't see why this couldn't work. And by having it do different things in different sections, you don't add too many abilities at once, which could make it overly complicated. This is where the really cool part comes in, which excites me the most. All of the monsters up to this point have needed to look cute. Something I talk about in my mascot horror video, but essentially, for us to believe that these toys appeal to real children, the devs had to design them in such a way that is both child-friendly and scary. This can give us some really creative designs like Yarnaby, but it also limits how scary some monsters can be. Not every monster can open its face or reveal human skin. This design limitation does not exist for the prototype. Let me repeat. Because this monster wasn't made for children, there are no limits outside of the fact he uses other monsters as part of his body or abilities. He isn't based on any toy the company would have sold, so it allows a kind of horror that isn't restricted by the need to be marketable or cute. The prototype isn't designed to be a cute toy, it's designed to be a monster. And so it can have whatever face or body the devs decide to give it. And from this teaser alone, oh boy, it looks terrifying. Like I said, this is the closest to genuine horror since Mr. Light, and that's because there's a human element to her flesh beneath her doll face. I really feel that same unease here, seeing this blurry image of something that seems to have human skin. The way your imagination can run wild with how this thing looks adds to the build-up. I think some uncanny mix between human metal and toy parts could look amazing, and if this is the final chapter, then I don't see why they don't go all out with the horror for their final boss. Trailers can be cinematic and spooky, but they don't often reveal how scary a monster will be in-game. In fact, Mr. Light was barely shown in Chapter 3's trailer, and that's good because it made her more shocking. Trailers only give us an idea of how things will look, but they don't give much away in terms of gameplay. Chapter 5's trailer proves Mob Games understands horror, but can they deliver what they tease? That's the real question. I think if they've done their homework and learned from all the other chapters, both good and bad, we can get something truly terrifying. Like Huggy, the prototype has been here since Chapter 1. His story importance means that a lot of thought has gone into him, and Mob Games has had a number of years to plan how this enemy works and behaves, to get it right. I really hope they deliver. But what about you? Are you excited for the prototype, or are you more interested in the other teased monsters? Let me know below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.